Español 2, repaso de pronombres del sujeto. Subject pronoun review. So today we are going to review some of the basic grammar that you did in Cosgrove. And we're going to start with reviewing our subject pronouns and what they mean in English. Our subject pronouns in Spanish are yo. You use yo when to say I. You've used this one, probably the most common one you've used. Remember that you use yo when you're talking about yourself and only yourself, or when the speaker, if the speaker isn't you, is talking about themselves and only themselves. Tú. Tú is one of the 4 ways that we say you in Spanish, and you use it when you are talking to a friend or a family member, someone that you know well. Remember, this is only one person that you're talking to here. El. El can mean he. That's probably the most common way you've used it. It can also mean it. And again, here you're talking about one thing, masculine, either a person or a thing. Ella can mean she. Again, that's probably the most common way you've used it. You can also use it to mean it if you're talking about one person or thing who is feminine. Usted is the second way to say you. Usted is the formal way to talk to one person saying you. So you're going to use this with someone who is unfamiliar to you or a person who is in authority. Now, at your age, you're tending to use to even with people you don't know. Generally, younger people, even if you're meeting someone for the first time, you're going to use the to form. You're going to be more informal. For myself, if I meet someone new, I'm going to use the usted form because as an adult, you're going to be more formal with people that you do not know. You would probably use the usted form mostly with people who are going to be in authority. So your teacher, your principal, your boss. Parents, you tend to use the to form unless you want something. If you want something, then you're going to be extra polite, and then you're going to use the usted form. Nosotros means we. If you're including yourself in a group, then you're going to use nosotros. Vosotros is the third way to say you, and it is used exclusively in Spain. However, it is used all the time in Spain. So don't get caught up in, oh, it's only used in Spain. Well, maybe it's only used in Spain, but it's used a lot. So you do need to be familiar with it, and I am going to hold you accountable to it this year. You is the informal plural of you, the vosotros form. So you use it again only in Spain, but if you're talking to a group of friends or a group of your family, in Spain, teachers use this to talk to their students informally as a group, vosotros. Ellos is they, can be used to talk about people or things if it's masculine or if it's a mixed group of masculine and feminine. Ellas means they, again, can be talking about people or things, but everything in the group has to be feminine. If even one person is masculine, you're going to use ellos. And that's why if you're not sure, you always use the masculine. You use ellos. And ustedes is the last way to say you. It is formal in Spain. And in the rest of the Spanish-speaking world, you can use it formal or informal. And it's talking to more than one person. So really, you have to remember that there are 4 ways to say you, because in English we only have one. So make sure that whenever you want to say you in Spanish, you're thinking about who am I talking to? Is it someone I know? Is it someone I don't know? Is it one person? Is it more than one person? It's always good to do your verbs in the verb chart in this format because the left-hand column is all the singular forms and the right-hand column is all the plural forms. So here you see I labeled it singular and plural. Then when you go down, you have first person in the first column, second person in the second column, third person in the third and fourth rows, and I said columns, I meant rows. First row, second row, third and fourth row. And then usted is kind of funky. Usted and ustedes goes back to the second person. But the reason we list it that way is because these forms all use the same form of the verb, and these forms all use the same form of the verb. So speaking of verbs, let's do some regular verb review. And I know these are really familiar to you, but let's just review, especially if you did not concentrate on the vosotros form last year. So there are three types of regular verbs. AR verbs are the absolute most common. So if it's a regular verb, it's probably AR. ER are the next most common, and IR. The verbs follow a pattern for their conjugation. That's what regular means. So if you learn the pattern, you're going to be able to use any regular verb in Spanish, whether you have seen it before or not. So when you conjugate a regular verb, the first thing you're going to do is take off the ending. So if it's an AR verb, you take off the AR, ER verb, take off the ER, IR verb, take off the IR. And then you're going to add the correct ending depending on your type of verb and depending on the subject of your verb. So our AR verbs, I know you know these. Your endings are O, as, a, amos, ais, an. Now, do not forget the accent on ais. That's really important. That's what makes us punch that ah when we say it. Ais. And again, you are going to be accountable for the vosotros form this year. So when I conjugate a verb, for example, buscar, which means to look for, all I'm going to do is take off the AR and add my ending. So I end up with busco, buscas, busca, buscamos, buscáis, and buscan. ER verbs, same concept, but the endings are going to be different. O, e, es, amos, eis, ein. Again, don't forget that accent. It makes us punch that A in eis, eis. And again, the concept is exactly the same. You're just using different letters. So aprender, to learn. Yo aprendo, aprendes, aprende, aprendemos, aprendéis, aprenden. And finally, IR verbs. Your endings here are O, es, e, imos, is, ein. And again, don't forget the accent. That's what makes us say is, and make sure that we put that stress on the last syllable of the word. Now, I want you to make sure that you make note of imos and is, because if you'll notice, the rest of the forms are really similar. In fact, they're exactly the same as ER verbs. And so when we make mistakes on our IR verbs, it usually is with imos and is, because we kind of get in the habit of thinking everything's the same, and everything is not the same. It's not exactly the same as ER verbs. That's why we have a separate verb chart. So make sure you remember that the nosotros and the vosotros have imos and is, because it's an IR verb. Again, when we conjugate, same exact concept. Asistir, meaning to attend, take off the IR, add the ending. So you have asisto, asistes, asiste, asistimos, asistis, and asisten. So if you would like to do some practice, there is a Conjuguemos activity for you to use for practice tonight.